How a game animates is such a core part of its experience. Even without really thinking about it, you can still feel it, right? The juddery movement of NES Mario versus the buttery smoothness of a 60 frames Hollow Knight or Street Fighter, or maybe something in between like the buttery judderiness of a Sable or Usual June. Animation is such a core part of that visual identity, and it's really awesome to see so many games and experiences that are experimenting. So maybe you'd like to try some animation yourself, but you're a little intimidated by the idea of booting up Blender or Maya. Maybe you're like me and doing any drawing is actually intimidating, and if I am going to try and animate on top of that, I need to do it in a place that's safe and familiar. Sorry, I have a little artist trauma. If any of that applies to you, then I think you'll be excited about our next workshop. Now, this workshop is led by Charlotte Pang. She's a TV animator turned games animator, also an artist and producer as well. She's going to be leading this workshop on how to create an animated asset that you can use in a game with Google Slides. And she's also going to introduce us to the 12 basics of animation as well. I think this workshop is great because it gives us an opportunity not just to try the demo itself, but understand some of the core concepts that might underlie what we inherently appreciate about the animation in games. So please welcome to the stage, Charlotte Pang.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Speedy Cute 2D Animations in Google Slides workshop. I'm really excited to be presenting this today. This workshop is really geared towards folks who are kind of beginners to art and animation, as well as anyone who is looking for an easy, accessible way to create some animations in general. This is especially good for prototyping, or if you're in a game jam, or if you just want to gray box out some animations or just make something really easy and quick. So let's jump on into it. So your host today is me. Hello, my name is Charlotte, and I'm a 2D animator, artist, and a producer. I've worked on a lot of different indie games recently, and I've been having such an amazing time. I really found my drive like working on these amazing, meaningful games, and I have all of this amazing indie community to thank for that. I used to work in TV animation in the 2D puppet rigging department, and I pivoted to games about 2 to 3 years ago, and I have not looked back since. So let's hop on into, we're going to start off with a few tips. Actually, I have 12 whole tips to start with. So when you first start off animating, everyone's going to talk about the 12 principles of animation. And these are like the beginner's rules for animating, but I don't think that they're really that helpful, especially when you're first starting out. You're not going to be able to process all of this, and that's completely fine. It's pretty overwhelming to do all of this and understand all of this. So for this workshop in particular, we're going to just focus on two of them, squash and stretch, follow through and overlapping animation. But for your own kind of practice, my recommendation is that you really get into like one or two of these for practice, and maybe with each pass you incorporate more, or you can kind of focus on one or two with each different kind of work that you do. But yeah, I'm going to run through them super quickly so you can get a good idea of what these all look like. So the first one, squash and stretch. It's a pretty interesting one. This is the exaggeration of a non-rigid body. So like for example, there's the flour sack over there on the side there. There's a stretch when it extends up to like the zenith of its jump. And then there's also a really flat moment when it impacts the ground. So squash and stretch usually indicates like acceleration, speed, or impact. And it's a really easy way of making some really interesting bouncy animations like the bouncing ball. Next up, we have anticipation. This is also known as the wind up before an action. So before you throw a punch, sometimes you might pull back your fist first and then accelerate forward. An anticipation movement usually goes in the opposite direction of the action that you're going to animate as well. And next up, we have staging. Staging is a little bit more to do with kind of film and animation, but in this case, I thought of Red Dead Redemption 2 as a good example of staging in games. Staging talks about the composition of your scene, so that could be level design in games, and how things are presented and what your eye is drawn to. So oftentimes in animation, we have something called the rule of thirds, where the screen is split horizontally and vertically into three, and where those points cross, those 4 points, is often where your eye is drawn to, and it's good to place important things on those points. Next up, we have straight ahead and pose to pose action, which is a kind of like an animation technique more than it is a principle, but it's something that can be really helpful to think about when you're going to go into an animation. Straight ahead talks about animating from beginning to end without kind of pauses in between. You just go beginning to end, and then that is your animation. Whereas pose to pose talks about planning out some of the important movements in between. So like there's a jump example there, and you have the anticipation, and then the point of the top of the jump, and then the landing as the three poses, and then you fill in the in-betweens as you go. Straight ahead is really good for making more fluid animations like effects animations such as fire, water, that kind of stuff, whereas pose to pose is really good for planning out really complex animations. See which one works for you. Sometimes it's good to just start out with straight ahead, and then sometimes it's good for pose to pose. You just see what works for you. And next we have follow through and overlapping action, which is something I'd really like to look at in our workshop today. Follow through and overlapping talks about how other aspects of your character are going to move as they move. So as you can see with the cat jumping, the ears and the whiskers and the tail are all flopping around as it jumps. And the timing is super important, and that's why it's called overlapping. Sometimes things will move slightly later than the action, or sometimes they'll move a bit earlier, but they describe the movement of other things on the body. And we have slow in and slow out. Slow in and slow out is a very, another technical term. Sometimes it's also known as ease in and ease out. This talks about the placement of frames and how similar they are. So when you first start off a movement, you want a movement to accelerate into its action and then slow down towards the end. So all of the frames at the beginning might be closer together and also look a bit more similar. And then as they progress into the main part of the action, they'll look more different and more animated. And then as they get towards the end, they'll start to build up and get closer together and similar again. And that's how you can achieve kind of this slow in and slow out effect. Next up, we have arcs, which is a curved path that an action can follow. And this usually helps a very organic looking movement, but this is not a strict rule. Sometimes you can also have straight lines, or you can also have different kinds of arcs. So in general, a circular kind of shaped arc is helpful for making organic movement, but if you wanted something a bit more straight, that can create a lot of impact as well, or it can create something a bit more robotic. So use at will, see what you think. Next, we have secondary animation. This usually refers to a different part of the body or something that isn't related to the main action, moving to help accentuate the story or the emotion of what you're trying to animate. So, for example, the little arm is circled on the image, and the main action is a knock, but that other arm circled will really distinguish what that knock is all about. So is the knock an angry knock? So like the guy's fist is all like tightened up like this. So is it an angry kind of knock? Or if it's like a loose hand, it's very floaty. It's like, oh, it's a nice kind of knock. So secondary action is another helpful kind of second thing that goes with the main action to help describe what's happening with the character. We're almost there. We got timing. So timing is a little bit amorphous, but we'll talk a little bit more about it in a second with frames per second in games. But mostly timing refers to how quick or slow an animation is. And it can be really hard to grasp this when you first start out. So I would take your time with it and understand, see how it feels when you first animate. Oftentimes when you first start out, 24 frames per second is a lot, and you animate 24 frames, and then it's like, oh my God, it's just 1 second of animation. So it can be hard to get a good feel of what timing is, but it takes a lot of practice, and also you can do some things to fudge it as well in games. So, but yeah, that is timing. Next up, we have exaggeration. Exaggeration refers to breaking the bounds of your character design to really push for a movement or a moment. And this usually makes things more interesting to look at, but also it just brings a lot of impact and movement and dynamism to your animation. So oftentimes, like in the Totoro GIF I have, you can see the chest really overinflating, and to really get how much air Totoro is breathing in, so you can roar. That is a great example of exaggeration. And the last two, these refer a lot to very traditional animation, so don't worry so much about this. This is one of the principles is called solid drawing, and this means rendering a character in a way that is three-dimensional. It has a lot of form and perspective, and it has good proportions and that kind of thing. And this doesn't refer so much to games or the workshop that we're doing today, but it can be really helpful if that is what if you're going into more traditional animation. It is good to have solid, clear, clean drawings to help with your animating. And very last, we have appeal. Appeal refers to characters that are cute, memorable, relatable. They tell a good story. Appeal often refers to good character design, which is a little also a bit amorphous. What does it mean? So in terms of games, I'd say if your character is somebody your players want to be, I think your character has good appeal. But again, this refers a little more to traditional animation, and not so much to games. But yeah, those are the 12 principles of animation. Please take what you will and see what works for you. And yeah, don't be too bogged down by all of them, and pick and choose the ones that will be most helpful to you. So we're heading into frames per second. This is super related to timing, from the 12 principles. And it's also a really big discussion in games oftentimes. I really wanted to start off by breaking down the preconception that a higher frame rate equals a better game. I really wanted to say that it really doesn't. And I think a frame rate is very dependent on your game, and the more frames you have in a game, there's going to be higher amounts of data and file sizes. So absolutely take into consideration when you first start out animating what kind of frame rate you want to choose. And that can really depend on what kind of game you're making. So for example, I have a lot of reuse frames here from Street Fighter. A fighting game, fair enough, you probably do want a higher frame rate so you can get those impacts, and you have all of those different kinds of moves going in there. And you want, if it's a competitive game, probably do want a high frame rate. But if you're not making a fighting game, maybe it's okay to have a much lower frame rate. What is your scope? What's your art style? Will players actually benefit from having a high frame rate? It's good to check in on those things and see what you need. There's absolutely no shame in making a low frame rate game. And you definitely can always scope up as well. So if you start off with, okay, I'm just gonna maybe do 3 keyframes, and then we'll just see how it goes. And then in the polish phase of your game, you're like, oh, I have so much time. I'm gonna make all the in-betweens to my animations. Absolutely go for it. Obviously, it's better to start from the ground up with a frame rate, but if you want to make it more flexible, there are ways to work around that. And it is always possible to start lower and then go higher. So I have a video here by the animist of Shin Ultraman doing a little exercise. Here, this highlights 8, 12, and 24 frames per second. There's a very different kind of vibe with each of these frame rates, but there's also a lot of charm between all of them. I think 8 frames per second definitely gives a more storybook vibe, and it's a little bit choppier, but it lets your mind fill in some of those gaps. Whereas 24 frames has the very fluid motion. So depending on what you're going for, you can see which frame rate you would like to choose. So here I have a few examples of some really interesting different uses of frame rate that is already in our general media. I wanted in particular to highlight Into the Spider-Verse with Miles Morales and Peter Parker. The two of them actually have two completely different frame rates side by side from each other. So Miles Morales is animated at a lower frame rate compared to Peter Parker, and it is actually for narrative reasons, which I think is amazing that there is a context to a lower frame rate. So to show that Miles doesn't quite fit into his persona of being a Spider-Man just yet, he's animated at a lower frame rate. His animations are a little more awkward and a bit clunky compared to Peter Parker, who has very fluid and quick motions. So I thought it was amazing that there is a wonderful context to that. I also wanted to highlight Stardew Valley and Metal Slug there, the two differences between Metal Slug's very detailed and fluid animation compared to Stardew's very, I don't know what frame rate that is, like 3 frames per second. But they both tell and do exactly what they need to do. They're very different and they have different vibes going for them, but they're doing what they need to, and that's all that matters. And finally, I just wanted to draw your attention also to anime and the amazing Sakuga animation. All of that is also animated at low frame rates, and they show so much impact and emotion and narrative through them. A low frame rate does wonders sometimes, and it can really help the brain fill in some of the action that's happening without the artist having to draw and create so much art. And lastly, before we head into animating, I'm just going to have my little rant about simple character designs. um, so I believe that simple character designs are amazing. And if you're like here sitting here like, oh, I can only draw stick figures, I would say let's freaking go. Amazing. I think it's absolutely brilliant to embrace those limitations. It's okay to be able to only draw stick figures. That is a start, and that is fantastic for whatever you're trying to do. Additionally, easy facial expressions equals easy anim. And in general, an easy, simple character design means easy animations. So if you see our wonderful friend Kirby, Kirby is made up of like 5 circles and a whole bunch more circles on their face. So I think these kinds of simple character designs can create very iconic, interesting characters. And there is no shame in making really cute, easy characters as well. My favorite thing is having dot eyes on characters. I think they are so cute and they can tell such a great story. But yeah, the less you have on a character, the easier it is to animate. So if you have a character that's going to have like a ponytail, they have really long earrings, they have a scarf, they have like, I don't know, makeup on and things like that, and really long eyelashes. All of those things are going to have to move alongside the character when they do anything. So it is very good to also just think, I don't really have the time or the scope for that, so I'm going to make it easy, and my character's going to be a smiley face. Totally okay. All right, we're going to hop into a Google Slides template. So I have made a little template in Google Slides already, and we're going to start off by creating a quick character, and then we're going to hop into some animating. So I will see you there. Hello, welcome to the Google Slides section of the workshop. So I have started here with a little chicken design, and this whole template is formatted in a square format. So there are ways to change the setup of the Google Slides page. Here are the custom setups that I've just made here. So this is a 5.21 by 5.21 inches board. I think it's supposed to be pixels. There we go, 500 by 500 pixels, which usually it should be a good enough size to work with for games. And yeah, I'll first go into a really super quick basic rigging thing that might be helpful. See if it's helpful. It's just a tool to go into your little tool set. So Google by default has pivots in the middle of a shape. So what I have thought would be a good idea to offset that pivot. You can't really do much with this. You can open up some avenues of different kinds of animating if you just offset the pivot a little. What you can do here is you can group shapes so that the pivot will be offset. So by grouping together this X with this wing, Sorry, this little semicircle. The offset is now over here. So the pivot will now move around there instead, which can be helpful. For example, if you want like a wing to flap or something, that will be very helpful there. So you can see this in action on here. So oopsies, the wing will move around body rather than kind of just that little isolated tiny flap. Okay, let's go really quick into making a character. I already have some pre-made little animations here as well. If you would like to have a look, you can just flick through them up and down on the keys. So it's really quick ones. This is Angry Chicken that I've made before for the same workshop. These 3 frames were a little running animation. So let's go really quick and make a character. So we're going to start off with a circle. Amazing. Let's go. I think I will make a bargain store Kirby. That sounds good. And you can set your own colors as well. You do not have to use their presets. This will do. And I'm just going to copy and paste these shapes and just size them down, flatten them, just to get something super quick and super easy. Oh, I'm going to turn this so that it is facing, the pivot's just facing out. Let's put this over here. Oh, look at him. His bargain basement Kirby is coming. And then we've got the little feet. And we're going to squish this circle. And then we're going to make it red. Hell yeah. Okay. And I'm going to go into make a very simple face for Kirby. So this is not going to be our usual Kirby. All right. The feet are a little funky. There we go. That'll have to do. And I'm just going to push all of these shapes forward. There we go. Maybe the feet should be bigger. All right. Amazing. Okay, so to make the face, I'm just going to copy over these circles and let's make them a bit smaller. And I'll color them in black. Hi, Kirby. Oh, whoa. And then just gonna pivot this round just for consistency. And then we're gonna do what kind of mouth? Oh, do we got a semicircle? Yes, we do. Let's do that. Okay. Hi, Kirby. Oh my goodness, exceptionally happy, Kirby. All right. Here we go. Here, just push it so it's kind of it's a little scary. Okay. Those eyes are staring into my soul. Just make the eyes a little smaller. All right, fantastic. Here we go. We've got bargain basement Kirby. And I'm just going to group the facial features. This is really helpful for if you want a bit of 2.5D vibes. This can be a really great way to animate a slight turn in the head if you would like that. So this is just good practice for that. But yeah, let's hop into doing a quick jump animation. So I've just copied and pasted the frame over here. So we'll start off with Kirby right down here. All right, and then we're gonna let's start with anticipation. So Kirby's gonna get really low and he's gonna, let's get those arms up. This is a good way to practice like, what does anticipation mean? What do these principles do? So Kirby is squatting. Kirby is squatting low. And I'm gonna show some pose to pose. So that's the first pose is Kirby squat. Second pose is gonna be Kirby jump. So what would that look like? Maybe Kirby's feet are like this instead. Cute, so cute. And Kirby's hands are all the way up here, having a great time. Kirby's face is all the way up there. Maybe I'll just squish these out a bit more like this. So there's like a roundness to Kirby. Here we go. So, bonk. We have a pose to pose animation. Let's go. Okay, and then we'll just do a landing animation, which might look a bit more similar to the squat. So I just copied and pasted that frame. And I'm going to just squish it down a bit more, maybe widen it. So this is Kirby's landed and is squished. It's easy to, I think this way of animating means that it can be a bit easy to go out of bounds of your character design. But I think when you're first starting off, it's really important to have fun with it and see how it goes. Here we go. So here is our Kirby jump beginnings. We're going to go into a little bit of the in-betweening now, so we can smooth this out and make it a little more interesting to look at. But so far, this is looking pretty good, I think. We can add in, so I'll go based off of this frame, same frame here. So this is first frame is anticipation. Second frame can be going into action. Let's go. Okay, let's go. So Kirby is starting to believe. Kirby is starting to jump. Here we go. Like in the principles, there is ease in and ease out. So these first frames are going to look a little more similar to each other, and that's completely okay. Next up, we're going to go into jump time. So that's all the way up there. So what we'll do is, as Kirby is accelerating into the sky, we're gonna give him a little stretch. He's gonna be a little stretched out. Get those arms up. Kirby is so happy. What a joyous little guy. So cute. And his legs, they're kicking. They're going. Just showing them a bit long, a bit clown feet right now. Okay, here we go. Yes, it's happening. It's happening. Oh my goodness. So cute. Here we go. All right. So we are, I'd say maybe one more frame in between might be nice or not, but let's give it a go. Why not? Why not? So I will take from the zenith of the jump frame actually. And I'm just gonna move them down slightly and just put these arms a bit further around. Get that 2.5D going. Get those feet out a bit. So it's just in the mid jump here. Okay. All right. It's looking good. Okay, I'm just gonna push these two legs a bit close together. See the consistency there. Amazing. So floaty. So such a floaty animation. Okay. And then to come back down, Kirby's gonna how's Kirby gonna come back down? Oh my god. Let's get a bit low again. Or I can show a very quick way of doing this actually. A quick way of looping this animation is to copy the frames back. Oh, whoops, I think I just deleted the top jump. There we go. So this is like advancing into jump. You can also copy and paste advancing into jump back out. And that is a very quick way of making a looping animation. So which one was it? This one, and then this one. And then this one. So I'm going to switch these. So there's like, this is the bounce back up, follow through. So if I flick through these, there we go. We have our little Kirby animation here. So a few things that I could do to improve this would be to maybe add a wiggle in the arms. So Kirby's like jumping and absolutely having a great time, that would be a secondary animation. Or I would love to animate some more in the face of the animation. Um, but this is already a great start. The one more thing I may do is I would take this and I would just set up the OG. Actually, I will not take this one. I'll take the round cubes. And here we go. So this is like OG cubes. Let's go resting idle pose. Resting idle pose. Here we go. Perfect. All right. Cubes is resting. Cubes is squatting. And Kirby is jumping. There we go. To maybe increase the impact of this jump, I might consider taking out this these one of these frames because I think it's really floaty, which is fine for Kirby. But if you wanted a bit more impact, sometimes it's good to take out a frame. So if I just took out that frame and take out this frame, here we go. So now Kirby is more adherent to like Earth gravity. So Kirby jumps and falls much quicker. But with those two frames in the middle, it kind of felt like Kirby was floating, which does work quite well too. But yeah, that was a super quick rundown of how to animate in Google Slides. There is all of the some of the principles are in this already. So today we covered a bit of squash and stretch. So we have Kirby's squash right here, very squish. And then we have some stretch happening over here. I could exaggerate this even more. Um, and we also have a bit of follow through and overlapping with the feet going in and short, and then the arms as well, kind of moving around Kirby's body as the follow through and overlapping action. And we also even went into a bit of anticipation. Oh, Kirby's gonna jump. Um, so I'm also going to do a quick section on how to export these animations and put them into Unity, and you can see them working in the game. So the first thing you will need to do is you're going to have to go to File, Download, and then PNG image. Unfortunately, Google Slides is not great at exporting multiples of images, so we are going to have to do them one by one, unfortunately. So I'm going to opt to export the angry chicken walk rather than the Kirby bounce for the ease of this workshop. But also some quick things to run over really quick is the format is already in a square, which usually works better for game engines. So in the page setup, as I showed earlier, this is a square format. And also you can check out the background, which is here, slide, change background. The background is already transparent, but if you wanted to set it to a different color, you can do. But if you just wanted to hit transparent here, that will make any background transparent in Google Slides. So I'm going to export these one by one, and then we will head into Unity. So hello, welcome to the Unity section of this workshop. I'm just going to show you how to import the images that you just exported out of Google Slides, and you can see them work in Unity. So it's super simple. You just have to grab the images that you got out of Google Slides. So I'm going to go import new asset, and I'm going to select the 3 frames of animation. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these images in Unity. I'm going to drag them into here. I'm going to call this Angry Chicken Run. So a new window might pop up and it will ask you to rename this animation, and you can just give it whatever name you would like. And then it will create some new things for you. You don't have to worry about these for now. If you're going to get further into animating in Unity, these have lots of different functions, but for the time being, this would just hopefully, if you hit play, you're going to see chicken running. And there he goes. So that is the Unity section on how to import your animations into Unity. Thank you so much for following me through this workshop. Please go and animate well, and I hope that was a good insight into how to animate a cute little guy in Google Slides. Thank you so much for listening, and please do get in touch if you have any questions about this. If there's anything you discover about Google Slides, please let me know. You can find me. My email is on the screen, and you can also tweet me, IG me. I would love to keep in touch. Thank you all so much.
All right, so that was pretty cool, right? I definitely never looked at Google Slides and inherently thought about using it for animating. Did you make something cool? Did you make a Kirby? Did you make something a little fancier than a Kirby? I did not make anything fancier than a Kirby. Honestly, I think this is great for a couple of reasons. One, it makes the barrier to entry and learning lower. Makes it easier for anybody to get involved and try some animation. It also gives us that sense that, as many game developers know, all around us are tools that are waiting to be used in unconventional ways to make some really innovative spaces in games and more. So thank you so much for sharing that time and that experience, Charlotte. Folks, if you want to keep up with Charlotte, you can find amazing artwork over on Instagram at frangipang. Now, that is going to take us to our second break of the day. You worked up a little bit of an appetite with all that animating, right? This is a fantastic opportunity to go grab some food, stretch your legs, check an email. Maybe instead, rest. You could also head over to SwapCard, make some appointments, see some of the different booths that are set up, or maybe explore a little bit of that Steam sale and see some of the games that you'd like to add to your wish list. You can also catch up with other folks just right in chat, or you can rewind time a little bit. If you missed some panels and want to catch up, you've got some space. We will see you in just over an hour, and when we get back, we'll be featuring another interview with the fantastic Sharpie, who will be interviewing the team that's working on the sequel to a classic platformer based in Inupiaq culture. It's a really fantastic interview, and one of the first that they've given since they announced the game, so you don't want to miss it. We'll see you when we get back.